If you stuck with me for the past couple of weeks, if not months, on this channel in regard to my music-related coverage, I'm sure you're aware of just how excited I am for Exile, this new Demon Hunter album release. I'm really pumped for it. Again, I've been a fan of Demon Hunter for a very long time. They've been around, of course, for 20 years to 2 decades. I mean, to put it another way, I've been a fan for about 12 of those years, and I've tried to convey that excitement to the best of my ability regarding my music-related coverage, specifically focusing on this particular group. I mean, again, they're real staples in the metal field, and more specifically within the Christian metal genre. I mean, they're really a legacy group, I'd say. Many people know them. Even, of course, many people, within the, I would say, the more secularized markets. In fact, they've had, artists collaborate with this particular album who I don't believe are primarily artists within the Christian field. I mean, you've had Max Cavalera, I could be wrong, but Max Cavalera, Thomas England, Richie Faulkner of Judas Priest. I mean, Demon Hunter has a real reach and a potency as a metal group, and I've really admired their talent from not only beautiful tracks, and sometimes from a variety of styles. Again, they're pretty big masters, I would say, in their craft in regard to the metal scene. Whatever type of song they have and whatever type of tune or genre that best fits in. But I've had a lot of respect for them, again, just as a overall metal group. And, again, being legacy artists in the Christian metal scene, as a Christian myself, of course, I admire, how outspoken they are on that level. And their tracks, I would say, with this album have certainly pointed to that in regard to their messages. I've been really impressed with Exile, really looking forward to the release. I've covered all 5 of the previous singles that have released thus far. Really good vision for a new album, and we've been waiting for a long time, ever since War and Peace. I've said we're long overdue for a new Demon Hunter album, like 3 years waiting, but it's finally here, and they really came with a punch. I mean, their new album is... It's very interesting. Again, it's conceptual. That's very different. I'm not familiar with that from their past album entries in their library. But they've got a comic book coming out alongside this. I mean, this album's going all out in regard to its vision, and I cannot wait to see more of the album manifest as we get closer to the release date. I believe it's October 28th. So I might have been mistaken in thinking it was September, like early September in regard to the release date. I was obviously wrong on that level. But I'm looking forward to the album nonetheless. I've already pre-ordered at this point the deluxe edition, of course. As I've also stated, if you want to hear 2 bonus tracks, that is the way to do it, to order the deluxe edition. That's been pretty consistent over the past couple of albums they've released, Outlive and War and Peace specifically as well. That if you pre-order it through, I believe, their website, you get the comic books with that too, but you will get those 2 exclusive bonus tracks that are not on the standard release. But of course, I'm sure a standard release will be fun, overall as well. Either way, we've had 5 tracks thus far. I've really been impressed with what I've heard. Masters, the newest edition. Let's see what the sound is going to be, though, of this. This album's had a real range in regard to different tune styles. We've had some harsher stuff. Again, that's what I'm primarily more driven to from a genre taste. But, I mean, the ballad numbers have been great, too, especially the last one. I mean, Godless was really interesting and fresh, I will say, for Demon Hunter. I mean, I'm still kind of captivated by just how original that one seemed to be in its manifestation. Anyway, Master. Let's go ahead and cue this track up and hear the 6th single now at this point. /7, I mean, Praise the Void was released on the previous album, and that's, I believe, track number 7 on this one. Even though we haven't had an official release, at least, of that track for Exile, but they did release on part of the Songs of Destruction and Resurrection, I think is what it was called. I might have the album name wrong. But we've heard that one before as well. But this is basically track number 6 officially. And for those of you who would like to read along with the piece as we go through, I will superimpose the lyrics as well for your convenience if you want to read along in that way while you listen to the track. Alright, that's what I tend to do on my music reactions, more broadly speaking. Without further ado, here we go. I try to give you that convenience to the best of my ability. Master, though. Let's cue this up.
Why don't you bleed like the rest of us? Drink from the well of the dead. Follow the right or the left of us.
It's an interesting opening.
Don't you get into your head. You need a lesson in loyalty.
Okay, I'm digging this.
You violate your humanity when you recoil away from the truth.
War territory, sort of like Heaven Don't Cry power ballad. It's got that more aggressive tone. Go Yogi, I like this. Yogi, their drummer. I've never heard him do percussion like this before, at least not showcase, as sort of a solo. This is fascinating in regard to just the originality of this album, they're really playing around with their sound. Kind of fascinating. I've never heard a track like this one. This is a good piece.
You'll be the blind and devoted one. We'll be the vultures and wait. Carry the sway of a loaded gun. Isn't it better with someone to hate?
Hey, name drop one of them really good tracks. That was off of True Defiance. Really good piece. Wow. This is so different. I'm still kind of in a state of shock by what I'm hearing because it's just really good. I'm almost done with the song too. We got another one of these measures as well. I imagine we're going to get back to a rougher energy too, but this softer vibe I'm liking. Really ominous ending too. I'm kind of thinking as we're going through this is track number 2 in order of the album, so the pacing, it's just going to be an interesting play. So again, if you haven't covered this, or maybe this is your first time listening to Demon Hunter, maybe this is your first time approaching one of my videos covering the group, if so, I hope that spoke for you in regard to their talent. Even though as somebody who's been a longtime fan, I have not heard a track like that in its styling. To float between the softer and the more aggressive edge so sporadically. Again, when it introduced itself, immediately, War energy. War being the last album. For those, again, of you who might not be familiarized with Demon Hunter's past work, War and Peace was a co-album release. And it was very interesting in that War had a more aggressive metal side to it versus Peace, which is more ballad centered. Even if Peace had some more aggressive tracks thrown in there, like War had the more aggressive edge that fit more in line of like mainstream Demon Hunter and many of the songs that they're known for, rather than maybe some of their more ballad numbers, which are still great. I mean, I'm not exactly sure though, where the rankings fit in regard to perhaps what I imagine most people know Demon Hunter from their more aggressive work, and that's again my more favored metal styling, but I like the ballad numbers quite a bit, and this album again has impressed me. But this is sort of a nice blend between the two, but again, I feel like it definitely fits in type with War. It would fit though very well, but I've never, again, Godless and, okay, actually I'll say this. You hear sometimes, and this channel again is primarily based around first impression listens, and with first impressions, it's a very raw take from me in regard to what I'm, feeling at that moment. So upon subsequent listens, I have a better idea of what I think about a track sometimes when I give it more of a listen. Maybe sometimes I know immediately, but maybe upon further consideration, I understand more just what my overall feelings happen to be. And this has been consistent with the softer pieces of Exile. Heaven Don't Cry was like this, and I'm surprised to say that, again, for somebody who likes the more aggressive stuff, so let's say like Freedom is Dead and Defense Mechanism, those tracks immediately, I rushed to in regard to my favorites. Heaven Don't Cry has been really growing on me lately, and I think it's not only the very poetic structure to the lyrics, we'll get to that in a minute, but the power ballad direction was even interesting. Even then, I kind of felt like this is sort of a unique twist that I'm not familiar with in regard to past Demon Hunter work. Godless, of course, was like this. That felt so different from what they've done. I think in part because you had Richie Faulkner coming on, you could clearly hear that, for the song. I mean, that was highly indicative in regard to his talent. But even this, I'm like, I will say that the riff to me on that, I paint a sacred blood around the door, that one goes between the dun 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 dun, that one, that sounded similar. I can't put my finger on what track it is currently, but it sounded like one of their past works, and I'm trying to think of which one it's, or maybe it's a different group. It just sounds familiar, slightly. Although I like it, I'm not saying like familiar, like, oh, you should have tried something different. I think it's a fine transition. I find this track fascinating, that there's still this feeling that even though it's clearly Demon Hunter, it's clearly their sound, there's this fresh angle to it that I'm not... It's just so unexpected, at least in regard to recent releases. I've come away just being like, I've not heard this type of song before from them. And again, I've listened to nearly their entire library at this point, so I'm like, I'm very familiar with how they sound. And the first couple of releases certainly, fit the line of Demon Hunter, of course, what I know from them. But this is... I mean, even, come to think of it, too, as I was saying, fresh angles, Silence the World. Is it just like their softer numbers that have, like, fresher takes? Because I would say Freedom is Dead and Defense Mechanism sound much more consistent with the harder energy of the past of Demon Hunter, from what I'm familiar with. But Silence the World even had the use of those, like, electronic snares. Even that was different. To a degree. I mean, they've done that in the past as well for some of their other releases, but not as strikingly. Exiles has really shocked me in what they've produced, in a good way. And even the song itself, I mean, this is why I was saying, with the connection to Heaven Don't Cry, more than just, the feeling of freshness in the tune, I really like this poetic structure. And in particular, this is why Heaven Don't Cry has really been growing on me. But even then, with that song, it's not just the writing. I come from a writing background in regard to my major, so of course it's one of those factors that I immediately notice of a song, but like with Heaven Don't Cry, even that had, again, a more poetic styling. And I like the type of lyrics that are more figurative in their vision and articulation of their themes and messages in the language side. But there's such a fascinating baseline to the vision of the poetry that is so realistic in nature. And this album, I will also say, is what comes across to me, and I even see this, on past releases, but the faith direction to this album is very evident in the baseline of each song's vision. Heaven Don't Cry was like this. I've really been forced in the moments I've listened to it to dive as deeply as I can into reading the story and going, this is such a relevance to Christian doctrine and scripture and themes that I'm just shocked at how far that reach goes in envisioning and articulating that in the piece. Almost the same here. I mean, like, I paint a sacred blood around the door. I mean, that's immediate, biblical connection regarding the poetic imagery. The vultures want to feed on it. I mean, there's so many cues here. But I mean, I like the writing. Now, I also say that's hard in cases like this to best judge a piece. I've spoken to this with Exiles as well, and that this is a conceptual album. We don't have all the tracks to flesh out the vision of the overall album. So it's harder sometimes to best interpret the message as envisioned by the author, unless there's some sort of preview, and I haven't given much of a look into the vision of the track prior to covering this, just in this case. I did notice that, I thought this was kind of odd, though. They didn't release the track officially on their YouTube channel like they normally do, they put out instead, I think it's fine, but and I've seen this as well, you know, for past tracks that Ryan Clark, the Demon Hunter frontman, he's been putting up, I guess, behind the scenes vocal reels from like when they recorded the album, or maybe, you know, I don't know, maybe recording those tracks again. I'm not exactly sure, but he's been posting those on his Instagram, and he posted one on, I don't know if it was him, but Demon Hunter posted this on their official channel with Master that you could watch, you know, Ryan Clark singing along. I'm like, oh, that's a bit different, but okay, I'm game for that either way. But as well, you know, on their social media feeds, I've noticed they've been posting some short bios about what the song's themes are, at least intended and part of the artist. I haven't done that research for Master, so the vision here, again, I don't think I can best judge it in context of the actual story, but I do see the biblical motifs in the piece. And I think it's a track I'm going to need to, you know, maybe spend a little more time with in trying to comprehend its message. But I do like the narrative style. And I think, you know, I'll say the track comes across as a very fast listen, even though it's 4 minutes. I'm like, I kind of want it to go a bit longer. I felt like it would. It almost seemed like it had a bit of a rushed ending, because I guess it flies by so fast. As well with this track, I've never heard the percussion stressed so evidently. Usually it's a mixture of, you know, all the artists in the group, but Yogi did a good job here. I mean, those faster percussion sections were in the softer verses. Very interesting. Again, I have a lot of amazement and some, you know, pleasurable puzzlement, I'll say, in regard to just how much I'm enticed by this album. I'm really geared with Exile. Again, longtime Demon Hunter fan, but this feels so fresh to me. It just feels so distinctive from original releases that they've done. But even then, it still has that familiar feel that I trust, you know, the artists to maintain according to their past work. It's a really good listen, and Master is a fine addition. Perfect, in my opinion. It's a great, I would say, it's another good power ballad. And the overall pace of the album, this is really interesting too, and that this is, again, track number 2. So it goes Defense Mechanism, Master, Silence the World, Heaven Don't Cry, and then we haven't heard the 5th track yet. That is Another Place. Okay, that one to me sounds like a ballad number. I don't know. I might be wrong on that. But then, you know, well, I'll see with the consideration of the first 4. We go rough, power ballad, softer ballad, power ballad. It's really interesting to see the float here in regard to the pacing of the album. And I wonder if that's even going to mesh with the conceptual side. I find it just to be a really fascinating release, but Master's a great addition in my opinion. What are your guys' thoughts, those of you who are longtime Demon Hunter fans? And for those of you perhaps this was the first listen, did this motivate you to want to go check out some more of their past work? I would highly recommend it. Again, long-time staples in the metal scene as well as in the Christian metal scene even more so. And I can certainly vouch for their talents when I say that, you know, I've been listening to them for 12 years. I love them. Exile, again, has been another fascinating addition to their music library. But let me know what your thoughts are down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, whatever angle you come from. Going forward, I am anticipating, again, I got the release date wrong. I thought it was coming out in September. Apparently it's coming out as of October 28th. So we've got a little while to go in regard to the album. I would anticipate maybe another single coming out in that time. I don't know. I mean, 6 is a lot. But given the time frame, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they release a song. If so, of course, I'll cover it on here. And I am definitely thinking about giving the album a full listen when it drops. I did pre-order my deluxe edition copy, so I will be able to listen to the 2 bonus tracks. And I don't know, I'm like, you know, we've had at this point 6 tracks. I mean, again, I don't tend to do full-length album reactions that often just based on the time I have, but I'm like, you know, we've heard so much of this album already, why not just complete the journey with another 8 currently tracks at this point. I'm giving it some thought, but I'd be game to listen to it. You know, especially give you guys my first impression on the album, given I've gone this far with Exile. And for those of you who perhaps you're like, oh, you know, I'd be curious on that. Of course, keep your eyes peeled in case I do get around to making those videos when the album drops, or maybe when we get another single. But maybe some of you are like, oh, I'd love to hear your thoughts on some past work from them. And I've mentioned this before in my music-related coverage as well. I've been giving subtle advertising plugs. I'm starting a channel as of the new year. Symphonies and Small Talk. Link for that channel is already in the description box. It's, again, I'm hoping to launch it by January 1st of 2023. I'm starting production on it pretty soon. Both of these channels are linked in that this is basically first impression listens versus listens and analyses to songs and artists that I'm very familiar with in the music realm. Again, music for me is it's a favored entertainment form among the many different types of entertainment styles that exist today. Music for me has always been, it's always a special place in my heart, and I really want to spotlight that. I've always wanted to spotlight music more on my creative work on my channels, but that channel specifically devoted in regard to music. That is the main vision. And it's going to allow me to spotlight, again, music that I'm very familiar with in all the years I've been a fan of different bands and different artists, from maybe the lesser known artists to maybe more widely appreciated. Demon Hunter, I can tell you for certain, will be making a number of appearances on there. In fact, I'm actually giving a lot of thought to putting them as the debut song. There's one in particular that's really on my heart that I want to spotlight and talk about. So if you're curious to hear maybe some of my thoughts on some of their older work, that channel will in fact feature Demon Hunter. I'm 100% sure of that. So keep your eyes peeled, again, for the January 2023 release date. Again, these videos are going to be very similar in format, so if you like my music reactions here, I'm sure you'll like some videos in Small Talk when that channel launches. But if you're interested, again, to hear my thoughts on Exile going forward, those reactions will be available here. And like Master, which has been another, in my opinion, fabulous addition. Unexpected in its presentation. Again, I'm very impressed with this album overall, but worth the wait. I mean, and certainly... Still, even with the 12 years I've been familiar with this band, there's still so many surprises that to their talent and their gift, and I would say that Master is certainly complimentary of that assessment. I'm really shocked by just how original this album is coming across, and especially in the latest couple of releases, and it's a really solid entry in their library. Master is certainly a great contribution to the album overall. I liked this track quite a bit. Really did. Really good piece. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.